Hey, it's Brad Nile Farm. Today we're going to talk about pulling stumps with backhoe. You know, I'm on a side job right now. I've been doing this job last year before I started YouTube. I did a lot of land clearing and brush clearing on this property. And this time right now I had to come back. I had about 8 stumps I had to pull. This is being one of them. And I'm going to show you how I pull stumps and maybe give you an idea. Doesn't matter if you're using an excavator, doesn't matter if you're using a backhoe, doesn't matter if you're using a small backhoe. Basically, as long as you have a backhoe type attachment, you should be able to pull out a stump. And really, we're going to kind of give you a basic knowledge of what you need to do. And experience will be your best teacher. But you can pull big stumps like this. And it all depends on the type of machine you have and your skill level and what you can get done. So stay tuned and we'll talk about it. So the machine we're going to use today is my John Deere 510B, which is a 1985 model. It's a commercial backhoe. And the bucket we're going to use is about a 2-foot bucket. And this machine here is a very slow machine, but it has a good amount of power behind it. And because it's a commercial backhoe, it's going to have a little bit more stability to using it. And I have used this on a lot of stumps before, and it does a pretty good job. Ideally though, if I was going to pick a bucket, I would use a trenching bucket because you're going to get more digging ability to it, and it's easier to pick at the stumps. But today, because I couldn't get the thing off, we're going to just use a 2-foot bucket and see how it goes. Overall though, I'm almost done. I got 2 more stumps to go, and that's why I want to make this video real quick, just to kind of show you the principles of what we do here. So with that said, let's look at the stumps and we'll go from there. So I'm down to the last 2 stumps, and what's happening is these roots are going out at least 6 foot away from this tree. And they're very well sprawled out. The thing with a pine is that they aren't going deep, they're going out. So as these trees are all close together, I'm having a lot of the roots actually intertwined between the stumps, and it makes it really tough for me to separate them. So I'm trying to pick out a good 6 foot away and kind of work my way in. And I'm going to start on 2 sides, then I'm going to go completely around the entire stump. Then I'm going to try to kind of work my way under the stump until a section starts to give. And I'll just keep pulling on it, pulling on it, pulling on it until this whole thing eventually comes free. And that's really the trick to a stump. Go all the way around it. You're going to have to move, but you're going to go all the way around and try to rip all the roots that could be holding this thing down. Then you're going to get underneath it and try to pry up on it. It's a very destructive type movement, and you got to be very careful with your machines because you don't want to over and beat up your backhoe or excavator. So, you know, pulling stumps is a tough job on a lot of the machines that exist. So, you know, take your time and just do a good job with it. Part of the problem here is that on this property is we had a row of pine trees. One huge pine tree fell on the deck of the house. And the other problem is when they bought this property, they have drainage from the house, sump pumps coming out into this backyard, and it really just kind of flows into these trees. And there's no real out here. So we're going to kind of figure out and dig a trench and eventually groom this out. And my impression of moving dirt and land clearing is that I hate leaving stumps. And if we're going to be moving dirt, I want to get rid of any kind of obstacle whatsoever that's in my way that could hinder us. So sure, you can bring somebody in here with the stump grinder and grind this down, but that's not going to negate the fact of the roots that are in the ground. So I want to pull all the stumps, get the roots out of here, and then reform this whole area so it grades properly, it looks nice. They can cut their backyard, and we can get this drain situated so, you know, they can enjoy their property. And that's our main goal here, but it starts off first by getting rid of stumps, and that's what we're here to do. So this stump is one of the last ones. There's another little stump in here that's connected, so that may be part of a problem that I'll deal with too. And this other one here, I'm going to show you real quick. Right here is actually a stump, and I've already dug all the way around here except for this little area in here. So this stump's ready to come out. It just needs to get this one section done. Once that section's done, this thing will come right out. So that's where we're at with that. So I'll show you that here in a second. All right, so we're on the backhoe and give it some juice, and basically I'm going to show you how to pull this stump out. So remember, we went all the way around and we took out all this material where the bucket's been. So all now I need to do to start ripping out that one side. It's not that you want to go deep, you just want to be able to kind of just keep pulling little dirt, little at a time. The downfall is if you go too deep, you'll pull yourself into the bucket, and that's kind of counterproductive. So just kind of slowly work the stump. So there you have it. It kind of freed itself. But these stumps are pretty heavy, so my goal is to kind of flip it up and out. You know, the big problem with stumps, especially when they're wet, is you got all that dirt. So my whole goal is to get this thing out of here so I can get it flipped over and dry. So and there you have it. Once you get all the way around that bucket, all you have to do is cut a little bit out. She'll flip right out. So my whole plan is once all these stumps are out, we're going to kind of set them up like this. And I'm just going to let Mother Nature and the rain, because it's supposed to rain a couple days. It's going to get hot, 90-degree weather because we are in June or July. We just went into July. The dirt's going to start to dry, and I'm going to take the backhoe and I'm going to start knocking on this, and I'll flip off all this dirt. Now, and that makes these things a lot lighter. These things are huge. You know, I'd like to try to burn some of these, maybe not all of it, but enough that I can transport these home and kind of dispose of them that way. But right now, they're just so big and heavy, I can't move them. So we're going to try to flip them over, like I say, and let them dry. And this one here, I'm going to flip over to the one we just ripped out. So for today's project, all the stumps are out. We have a lot of roots and a lot of other wood debris that's on the ground. I'll be back here with the skid steer and probably a skeleton bucket, and I'll show you how we clean that mess up. And if I don't use the skeleton bucket, I may be using something else, but I'm pretty sure the skeleton bucket's going to be the tool for cleaning a lot of this debris up and getting it out of my way. So with that said, you know, we got all the stumps flipped over, so they're going to get air to them, so I can kind of pick off and knock off the dirt once it dries off. And that's another objective. Now, a lot of people do things differently. You know, I hear people burying stumps. I hear people trying to burn the stumps. I'll tell you what I feel is best for stumps. If you take a stump, you get it out of the ground and let it sit, you put them all in a pile for 5 years or so, they're all going to decompose and they're going to turn into topsoil. And it's money well worth the wait. So if I were you, I would consider these as like gold. Just let them get the air to them, let the sun get to them. They're going to decompose, they're going to break down, it's all going to become beautiful topsoil, and you can't go wrong. So I have a huge pile of topsoil at home. I cleared 14 acres, pushed all my stumps into a huge pile, and it's probably, I don't know, at least $15,000, $20,000 worth of topsoil. Why would I waste it? So, you know, if you bury it, it's just you're wasting a good product, and it's never going to decompose. As far as clearing goes, like I say, I'm a big fan of getting stumps out and get rid of the roots, because if you want to put a garden back here, or say if you want to plant something, or you can't fight the roots, so get rid of them. If you're going to do any kind of drainage, you don't want roots in the ground, you're going to be pulling them up, it'll be aggravating for you. So the best thing to do as far as I'm concerned, as far as clearing goes, is eliminate every tree stump you can, and stump grinding is not conducive to that type of thing. Now when we talk backhoes come in all different sizes. Some people have little compact tractors with backhoe units on them. Some of them have larger size tractors, maybe 50, 60 horsepowers with little backhoe units on them. Some people have commercial backhoes, you know, whether you have a 310, 410, 510 or whatever. There's a lot of different ones on the market. If you have a small compact one, you're not going to tackle huge stumps like I have today. You know, you're probably going to take out stumps that are maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe a foot in diameter as far as the tree goes, you know, where you can get around a stump like this, but you're not going to be able to flip them around as easy. So don't, you know, overwork your machine by what it can and cannot do. You know, even this backhoe was struggling with some of these monster stumps. You know, an excavator would be a lot easier, but again, it's a lot of strain on both the machine and you're fighting the ground and everything else. So my suggestion is just match the right machine to the right job that you have at hand. That's the best thing I can tell you. You know, I bought a commercial machine because of tackling bigger objects like I have. And I bought this well before I bought a lot of the excavator and other things. You know, this was cheap horsepower when I bought it. I put money into it, had put a head gasket on it, had to do a bunch of lines to it. A lot of things over the years, but this is an old tired machine, but it still does the job. And today I used it for a simple little job that it needs to do. Now, the other thing that I tackled, which made it a little bit tougher, is that the stumps were actually cut, trees were completely cut off. Now you can still drop trees with the tree intact and you just have to push the tree over. I like to do that the best because I like to use the tree as my fulcrum to push over the stump. And you're going to do the same thing, you're going to dig all around the tree, and all you're going to do is take the back end of the backhoe and just push on the tree, and the tree should flip over if you have it well broken down enough. But again, you have to be careful regardless whether the tree's up or the tree's down, you know, so you don't want the tree to fall back on you. But, you know, there's a lot of different ways to do these things, but this is the basic way of just digging around the tree. Give yourself 2 to 3 feet at least, depending on the size of the tree. And once you get too close to the stump, you're not going to be able to dig. So give yourself wide enough so you can take out all the root system and down. Now some trees, like pine, they go well out and they spread, but a lot of trees like pin oak, you know, they go straight down to the ground and they have a huge taproot to them. So you're going to have to dig substantially. You might have to dig 2 to 3 feet down to actually get to that tree to loosen it up. So it all depends on the type of trees that you're pulling too. So you need to take that in consideration. But today was just the basic fundamentals of how to basically use a backhoe or an excavator to rip out a tree. The concept's all the same, and the best teacher is your experience. And but the key is just to loosen that thing around. You know, once you loosen, you can see that stump starting to move. You know you're pretty close, and all you gotta do is keep working at it and come out. This is a very slow process. I did not film it because it takes 45 minutes sometimes just to pull one stump out. And I struggled with these. I was getting stuck in the mud because these backhoes are, you know, I'm in muddy conditions, so I have to deal with that. And you know, like I said, I had sprawling root system, so it wasn't that easy to pull them apart. Some trees are really easy to do. This was a little bit more technical, but still well worth it. And you know, if you paid somebody to come in here and pull these stumps or grind them, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So if you have the tools, this is where it's beneficial. And but if you tell me I'm going to have to go do, you know, this whole woods with this backhoe, we'll be here for all summer long, and it's going to be too grueling and frustrating, you know, because it takes like an hour to pull one stump. So you have to be realistic on your expectations of what you do and don't do. But these tools, for a small few stumps, you can't go wrong. So very happy with it. So, you know, I highly, if you have a backhoe, use them for pulling trees. They're not a bad thing. Just don't expect to do high production because it's not going to happen. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It just gave you good basic principles of using a backhoe or an excavator to pull trees, stumps out of the ground. And if you have any questions, leave me a comment. But bottom line is, backhoes, you know, they're not made for production, but they are a useful tool when you're not using them on a lot of stumps. And if you're using an excavator, it'll be a little faster, but make sure you match the excavator to the job or the backhoe to the job that you have at hand. That's probably your #1 thing. Get a smaller bucket. It's easier to pick at the roots, and that'll make your life a little bit easier too. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys soon.